Hello. I am so excited to have you on the show today. One, to talk all things health, and then two, to talk about changing your career path and just kind of your trajectory. We have a lot of people in their 20s who listen to this podcast, and I feel like even in college, you feel locked into your major, let alone like in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever age it is, feeling locked into your career path. So I would love to hear a little bit more about your career journey.
Yeah, certainly. So the first thing that I would say is, well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. But the first thing that I will say is that don't be scared. It's never too late. It's never too late. Because for me personally, I am originally from Spain and I went to med school there. And when I was doing my first year of med school, you feel like it's not for you. And in this case, it was not that I was squeamish or anything like that. I just felt like not motivated, right? And I remember having this fear of, I've already come this far. Am I going to change now? And I wanted to do something totally different that was engineering. And at the time, because girls also don't go into engineering, right? It was like weird. And a lot of people told me that I was going to fail. So like, just don't bother. And it was just my mom that was supportive. Like, no matter what you choose, you have to go with your intuition when it comes to these kind of decisions. And it is okay. You can always go back. You are still young, right? And I did that career change. And when I was in college, same thing. I just wanted to stay in Spain. And eventually, because I had a partner there and I had a great, support system, friends, so forth. I came to the US to do a master's in machine learning and AI. And I, as an engineer, and in this case, software engineer, I saw the opportunity to work in big tech because that's, definitely the US is the country for that. And this was about 10 years ago. And I remember same thing, kind of, I came here for just 1 year, finish my master's, go back to Spain. And it turns out that I ended up, giving big tech a try, and I went to work for Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, so forth. And I feel so lucky and grateful because, looking back, as Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots looking back. I was happy that I gave it a try, because literally everyone told me that I was going to fail. And I don't know if this is because I was a party girl back then, right? Like I like to have fun, and engineering have this, people have this belief that in order to do something that is hard, you need to have a certain personality. And it was not the case. I'm glad I took the risk, because sometimes, when you're young and if you can one way or the other afford it, it's definitely the right choice to go with your intuition and gut. And then even when I was working in big tech, I got really lucky because engineers in big tech make a lot of money. And then, I was there and I was working at Instagram at the time, and I started experiencing chronic fatigue and brain fog. And it was day after day after day. I was 26, 27 at the time. So I'm like, hold on, like, why am I so tired? Like, I'm still, in my 20s, I'm still young, what's going on? And you go to Dr. Google and, why am I tired? You start to get so much like generic advice or, things that don't make sense. And I tried the keto diet back then. And the keto diet, this was early 2017. So it sounded like ideal. You eat fats, cheese, avocados, bacon, everything.
When I think keto, I think a lot of bacon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right? That's what people think about. So I started doing the diet, and 3 months later, I felt even worse. And I was so desperate. I didn't know what else to do. But that medical background is going to come back, because what I did was to call my friends from med school that were doctors at the time. And we put together a list of lab work that I was going to go get done here. Got to the doctor, took me forever to get that list of lab work to get approved, because I was just tired. And the doctor was like, you're not sick, just go home. And the lab results was a aha moment for me, because I saw that chronic fatigue and brain fog was rooted in severe deficiencies in vitamin B12 and folate, which I would have never pictured. But to that all bacon comment, that raised my LDL, my cholesterol, which caused hormonal imbalances. So my thyroid got altered. So that's why it was even more tired. At the beginning I did lose some weight, but then I started to, gain that weight back. And it was because, you're not eating the right fats with a keto diet. And at the time I had such a comfortable, job, 9 to 5, like you get paid, I don't know, like $300,000-$400,000 a year. Like it's ridiculous, like how much people get paid in big tech. And then I decided to quit my job and, go work at the startup industry, which you don't get paid, not even like nearly 30% of that. Quit all of my benefits and perks because I felt really passionate about developing all of these technology tools that I developed at Amazon, Facebook, Instagram for people to shop more, to be more on their phones and all of that. But I saw that we were not developing the same products and tools for your health and wellness. So people are still out there wondering, why am I tired? How the hell do I go about losing weight? What do I buy on the grocery market, right? Like, what are the foods that are right for me or that actually I should stay away from? And I decided to, again, quit my comfy life to go do this thing that today is called Base, but that was about 4 years ago. In between, I went to work for other startups too in the health and wellness industry. And that's, to today, I would say that it's definitely the right decision. And I am feeling so grateful that I have the opportunity to do so. But at the end of the day, it's really about going with your gut.
You talk about following your intuition. What are ways that people can practically do that? Well,
I'll tell you this. When I was about to start my company Base, and I was working at this other startup, and at the time actually I just quit because I didn't see the path forward there. But I was talking to my coach and therapist, and he said something to me that resonated, because I was doing a lot of research on what other places I could go work for, and I had a spreadsheet and pros and cons, and I was like, maybe I'll go do this, maybe I'll go do that. And I was just constantly searching and being stressed about it. And he said something along the lines of, sometimes humans, we tend to make life decisions out of a spreadsheet and then out of researching a lot, and we exhaust ourselves to a point that you're like, okay, this one, because, none resonate. So I'm going to expand my, options, and I'm going to just pick one. And he said something along the lines of, why don't you spend 3 to 5 days working out more, meditating more, listening. And my way of meditating is listening to music in bed, right? Like just regular music. Mm-hmm. So he said, listening to music more with the lights off, relax, try to not overwork yourself, and stop researching for a little bit and let the decision come to you. And I thought that was the biggest piece of BS that he ever told me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give this a try, because why not take 3-5 days of this, job search? And I was coming out of Equinox one day, and I saw out of the corner, I was rushing to go back to work and other projects. And I saw this Joe and the Juice in the corner, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stop there and just going to have an avo shake, because I'm feeling
I love avo shakes from Joe and the Juice. And
right?
Everyone thinks they sound disgusting, and they do sound gross, but they're really good.
Exactly.
Anyways, yeah.
So sat down, and I kept thinking about this thing where I'm like, I'm so frustrated that people just don't know what to eat. And because at that point I saw the light, because I continued to do lab testing to starting to understand my weight loss journey, and understand, that there are certain things that I thought that were good for me, like fruit, but then having 3 to 5 pieces of fruit a day definitely is not good, because my sugar and fats became imbalanced. So I learned so many things related to weight loss, hormonal acne, and a few other things that I just wanted to bring that to the world for other people to experiment that. And that's when it clicked, because I saw other companies like Modern Fertility, for example, that they do lab testing for people to understand their hormones related to fertility. And they do this with an home test kit, or you can go to a Quest Diagnostics. So that was one of the companies that I was thinking about going to work for. But then I was like, I'm not really passionate about the fertility space at this point in my life. But then the way they were doing the lab data thing resonated a ton. And that's when I had the idea. I'm like, I'm going to go and start a company to do this. And it's funny because, of course, I call my therapist coach and I'm like, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to go do this. And he was so supportive. He's like, see, and now you know. And I'm like, yeah, the moment I had the idea, I knew this was going to be the thing that I was going to do. So I would say that it was a combination of course, researching like what's out there, having conversations with people, but combining that with some downtime to let you process all of that information and open up for that intuition and that right decision-making process to come up. Because when you're researching, you cannot like actually come up with the path for yourself.
You're like filling your head with other people's voices almost.
Exactly. So it's just kind of that combination of researching, having conversations, but also allowing for, whatever you do to relax, whether that's, working out, swimming in my case, or listening to music, and, a good combination of all of those things.
You said now you know it was the right decision. I feel like once you step out and you decide this is what I'm going to do, a lot of the time people just expect it to be like all like sunshine and rainbows. Have you had moments since starting where you've either doubted or been like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm on the right path, or this is too much for me? Like, have you had any of those moments?
Tons. But I would say this, there is a difference in between. So when I had the idea, I knew, but I was still scared. There was this fear, and you feel in your body, like in your chest and your stomach, you're like, oh my God, like what I'm about to do, I'm just about to go with no salary, like put like a chunk of my savings into this thing. And it's just really hard, like the odds are against you when you're building a company. 95% of a startup fails, right? Like, yeah. I was definitely scared.
The stats are not great. Yeah.
Stats are not great. And I've had so many dark moments, like dark. But still, I think that every time, personally now, and this is more like related to my personal journey, like this is the case when you are in a mission-driven job. For me, every time that we see a comment in, our member care, through our member care messaging team, about, hey, this person, lost X many pounds, or like was desperate for 3-4 years trying to figure out why they were tired. No doctor was listening to them. And then they came to base, and then they figure out that they had like some kind of, hormonal issue or prediabetes and like really severe anemia or whatever. And they feel heard. Like every time that I listen to those stories, I feel just so happy. And of course, now it's a little bit easier because we are growing. We're an established company. We have between about 20 full-time employees, with 30 with contractors, and we continue to grow. So I think at this point, it's a little bit different, but still you have dark times, right? Because we are a venture-backed company. So like that means that we need to grow, like about 2 to 3x every year. And that's very ambitious, right? And you have to continue to perfect the product really quickly and fine-tune everything and create a delightful experience, and with very little resources. So it's still really hard, and there are always fires that come your way, but I would say now it's a little bit better the first 2 years. And of course, right, again, even though you still may feel scared, but it's different because it's not like, oh, I think I'm gonna go do this. It's like, I'm gonna do this, but holy moly, like it's scary. So that's how I felt.
The thing, too, that I think is so cool about Base, and similar with Modern Fertility, if you guys are unaware, they're actually, we're a sponsor of this podcast as well, but they do like at-home fertility things, right? So that, and also like lab testing in general, is so expensive, and it's really not accessible not modern fertility, I mean like fertility treatments. So what's cool about Base and modern fertility in general is that it's more accessible and it's more affordable. Like, it sounds even stupid saying more affordable because it's nowhere near what it would be going in. And then also I've gone and got my labs done. My whole family has gone through this. It's so hard to find doctors that will actually take you seriously when you don't have like a disease that they can put like a name on, or something like a little bit more drastic. Like you were saying, oh, I'm tired, they ignore you. So that's what's so cool about like things that are making like Base, that's making it like more accessible to other people and also like more affordable. Like you were saying, like I wish I could tell the whole world and they would understand this, like what you were getting from like your friends who are doctors. It just makes it more accessible, which is cool.
Yeah, and actually, like in our case, that's a really good point because affordability and accessibility is one of the main things that people like about Base. Because if you think about it, most of our consumers come to us because they are either super tired and fatigued, they feel like they have some kind of hormonal imbalance that's causing any, and we just talked about PCOS too, or like weight loss, digestive issues, so forth. And they come to us because what they want is that personalized nutritional and coaching plans. Like, okay, tell me what to eat. We also give people recommendations of products at Amazon. So the brands that we really, really like, our scientific board has actually vetted them. And when you get your nutritional plan, you also get your grocery list and things that we recommend that you buy, that we are, by the way, not making a revenue or profit from. But the thing here is that if you think about it, traditionally people would go to either a nutritionist, which again, you also would not go typically because that's expensive and, not accessible. You have to make an appointment, and what nutritionist do I go to? But anyhow, what we are doing is effectively taking a lot of like data that is out there related to, correlation on how, walnuts or an excessive fruit is correlated with certain levels, right? We cross-match all of those interventions or the evidence that is out there for certain foods and behavioral changes with your results. And based on whatever goal you have, right? We have that supervised by doctors, and we are effectively, with technology, creating this nutritional and lifestyle plan, which is more accurate and effective than going to, a one-on-one service, because we are combining the data and knowledge of a lot of functional medicine doctors and nutritionists to verify all of the pathways, right? But not only that, but we are doing this based on your actual data, like whatever hormone or nutrient or vitamin that is off, and we're optimizing for that to fix that for you to get to your goal. So I think because we're using technology, at the end of the day, it's an algorithm, we are able to offer this for free. Like you come in and then you have to pay for the test, because that, of course, we have to pay the labs, Quest Diagnostics and other labs that we partner with. But then the plan that you get it for free, like with a, complimentary for the test purchase. So people really like that because it's like an accessible way to get this plan. And it's also in your app.
It's so much easier than having to go somewhere.
Yeah. And that's like my background, again, from, having worked at Instagram or Amazon. I'm used to designing products that are really easy and convenient. And that's what we are constantly thinking about. It's one of our values, right? As we are designing the product.
Is there something with like maybe weight loss specifically that people will go in and then they like something that we're taught maybe is super healthy or wouldn't be an issue, and then after testing people are realizing like, oh, maybe that's been my issue?
Yeah, there are a couple of things or stories that are super common. One of them are people that are doing certain other weight loss programs or just simply eating less. And they come to us being like, I just, or either I lost a few pounds, but then I gained them real quickly, or, I'm not losing more weight and I want to continue my journey. Or people that are more obese, that's also a problem. But what happens is when we look into their hormones and nutrient and vitamin levels, their testosterone and DHEA are pretty low. And yeah, women also have testosterone, by the way. So these two hormones that I've mentioned are what we call the fat burning hormones. So these two hormones are in charge of burning fat. regularly as you go about your day, what happens is when you start to restrict your bodies from calories, your body picks up on it. And it's like, okay, I need to go into reserve energy mode. And these two hormones that help you lose fat, the levels drop, effectively preventing you from burning fat and not losing weight. Now, by incorporating little things like avocado oil or coconut oil, although coconut oil would depend too on other levels, but avocado oil or regular olive oil, a little bit of nuts if you're not eating any, help us get that testosterone and DHEA higher to higher levels for your body to start burning fat without, raising your calorie intake a ton. And that's when we see people going back to seeing success and, seeing this very well balanced diet from a levels perspective. The other one, so that's number one. The other one would be people that have too much carbs and sugar, but they do not realize this, and their inflammation is high. So these people, what we would see a ton about is basically their what we call HbA1c is high and triglycerides. A lot of times this is driven by an excess of fruit or carbs intake in the morning. I know that there are certain things that have a good reputation because they are good, but not in excess, like, smoothie that they pack a ton of, carb heavy items there, and then you don't even realize it. Even myself, up until this point, I'm still making the mistake of having 2 smoothies a day. And then I start to see my levels go up and I'm like, okay, I have to de-escalate my smoothie intake routine. But long story short, that's another big one too that we are seeing, that people do not realize it, but these things or these type of carbs, whether they are good carbs in excess, they raise your triglycerides, and also they raise your hormone that is called leptin. That is the hormone that makes you hungry. And then you want to eat more. So then you start to increase your daily calorie intake and also gain weight. So that's another common one. So to summarize it, or either you have some hormonal stuff going on or your fats and sugars are not properly balanced. Like those two pathways are super common. And then you have some long tail things like, severe anemia or vitamin deficiency that gets you to be really tired, or like, don't have energy, so then you're not burning enough calories. That could be another one, and a couple of other things like hypo or hyperthyroidism.
What is leading to chronic fatigue?
So for chronic fatigue, what we see is, in addition to vitamin D deficiency, because we all are vitamin D deficient, like 80% of people, we do see a ton of anemia for menstruating women. So, women between their 20s and their 40s, they tend to have iron deficiency, and then you will get really, really tired. Then you will also have as I mentioned, if your sugars are not properly balanced, or you have some like history of diabetes in your family, you may not have diabetes, but you may have pre-diabetes. I had pre-diabetes because I had a ton of Diet Coke growing up when I was a teenager. And then that basically made me had some pre-diabetes, which by the way is great because you can I reverted those levels, and then I stopped having that much fatigue and brain fog and so forth. And I still have some Diet Coke here and there, but maybe, a can or two a week. Yeah. So that's another common theme. And then watch out for, because I mentioned hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's disease. That's another good one. And PCOS is hormonal imbalance is another one that we see a lot of. And then there's parents have something that we call adrenal fatigue. That's when their cortisol levels go very low, which is also bad. And that's when you wake up and you're super tired. The other one, okay, last one. Do you take melatonin?
No, but I stopped. I was taking it a little bit, and then I was like, I have to. And I noticed a huge difference once I stopped, but I was exhausted 24/7. I wasn't even taking that much.
Yeah. So that's the thing. How much milligrams do you remember?
Under 5.
Okay, under 5.
Yeah.
Not too bad. But because we see people that take from 5 to 10, and then they wake up and their melatonin levels go up so much at night
Yeah.
that they don't come down in the morning. So you're effectively, your body, your circadian rhythm gets thrown off because your body thinks it's still the nighttime because your melatonin levels could not go, to a lower point, to a low point. So then you wake up and you're really groggy, and it's just that we call it the melatonin overdose. And that's another thing that we are seeing in, 5 to 10% of people that they are just taking this supplement thinking that, it's helping me sleep because I cannot sleep because I'm tired and wired, because I had a lot of caffeine during the day, because I woke up feeling really tired. And it's this cycle that people get into when they are trying to fix their sleep. And that's another cause for, being really tired and fatigued.
Like, good to know. Very important.
Yeah.
I always joke that my mother thinks she's Gwyneth Paltrow. Like, she got super healthy, super into, like, literally, like, she thinks she's Gwyneth Paltrow. I took her on a trip last weekend with a bunch of, like, a work trip. And she's out with, like, her supplement. I mean, she does labs. Like, she is who even got me into health to begin with. But she wasn't like that when we were growing up because she educated herself later in life when she had a lot of health issues and realized, like, because no doctors were listening to her. And she thought it was hyper, and then she thought it was, like, it went all over the place, Hashimoto's. But now she's like, you need to get ahead of it because you can reverse this at this point, something that I waited too long to do. So what are things in my 20s right now that I can do to, like, reverse, like, specifically Hashimoto's, but it could be anything that's more applicable to the audience?
Yeah, and I would say that, like, look out for those symptoms or those signs from your body on, like, feeling tired or, like, not feeling great about your diet or digestive issues, because those are usually leading indicators for something that may be about to come in your 30s or 40s, right? So, because I totally get it. Listen, I'm also lazy. I'm very motivated. I'm very disciplined. But if I can do something tomorrow, I do it. Like, especially if it's not work related. My life admin stuff is all over the place. So, everyone do their taxes the last day.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Like, I'm not going to be motivated to work on my preventative health. But, like, if I see that symptom of fatigue or weight loss or something, that you may feel that it's off, I would say look into that. Because, like, again, that could evolve into something greater. But it's also affecting you today, right? Like, it is.
Yeah, I'm tired most of the time.
Exactly. And for me, like, now that I've been using Base and I've been just really diligent and disciplined about my nutrition and lifestyle, just because, again, I see my levels, and then that also helps me, because we also have a monitoring plan, because the way it works is you come in, you tell us whatever you're struggling with, whether fatigue, weight loss, digestive issues, acne, you name it, right? And then based on your answers, we would recommend a test for $59.95, and then based on, or an expanded test if you are not price sensitive and you want to do 4 or 5 from the get-go to have a more comprehensive nutritional plan. And then from there, we would pinpoint what hormone, vitamin, and nutrient is off, give you that personalized planning app. And basically, we would retest you once or twice just to see that the nutritional plan is working. And then, we call it the 2 to 3 months improvement plan, depending on how bad you are. It may take 3 months. But then we go into what we call the monitoring plan, where every 3 to 4 to 5, 6 months, we would knock on your door and we would be like, you need to test this thing, whether it's at your PCP or whatever you want, or with us, but you need to test this because you had anemia once, or, your sugar levels were really off, or this hormonal imbalance, and it's time to check it. And that reminder will come depending on, if it's anemia, maybe it may be 3 months. If it's some hormonal imbalances, every 4 to 5. So it's also personalized. But going back to your question, for me, I'm using this monitoring system to see when I'm cheating too much, to course correct. And this is helping me to, like, have energy all the time and, feel good about my diet, and also understand how can I cheat in a way that kind of works for my body. And honestly, it makes such a difference, because it's not that I am preventing those issues that you were talking about, because I did have pre-diabetes and I reverted that. I had some thyroid imbalances because of my keto in fats not being properly balanced, and I reverted that without medication. But long story short, it is great that I got it to, work on these issues early on when they were just fatigue or just some issues with my weight loss journey or with my diet, because I feel great today, but also I'll, hopefully continue to feel this way as I continue to, to grow up.
I have 2 questions before I forget. So the first one, from the time, I'm going to do the health one, from the time that I get my test, which I think is actually at my house in Texas right now, I do my at-home labs and then I send it. What is the timeline between when results are in and there's a comprehensive plan?
5 days.
Oh my God, that's so fast.
Yeah. We are actually on top of our labs, always, yelling at them to make sure that they release results in time. It's even faster if people go to Quest, which I prefer to do it at home because it's a hassle to go in. Although you can go in with the base app and walk in because we have a strong partnership with them. But if you mail that back in, it's 5 days because it takes, a couple of days to get to the lab. But then we are actually our ops team every day call, they every day call the lab to check on them on results that are due to be released. And then our medical team that reviews because a physician needs to always review those results. So they batch review it and then they do it the day off as well, that we got those results to make sure that we get results in time for people. And it's 5 business days, not 5 natural days.
No, still, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm afraid to ask the second one. What are your thoughts on alcohol?
Well, I mean, we all know that it's not great.
Yeah,
It's a general rule of thumb. But I do drink alcohol and I do it in a way that I figure out a way that works for me and my body, which is, I drink tons of water when I'm going out because I didn't drink for a year or a year and a half. And then I think I was really stressed.
Yeah. No, I didn't drink for 2 years and I'm I regret that, honestly.
Yeah. I am right there with you because I think that the mental stress that I added on top of myself by saying no, not going out with my friends because I don't drink.
Yeah. And
all of that effectively, I'm going to give you the scientific hypothesis here, but I think I was actually indeed releasing less serotonin and adrenaline and the happy hormones, right? That actually are really good for your body and health, because I had this thing always worry, no, it's not good for your health. And now what I do is listen, I don't drink every day. I drink on Friday when I go out with my friends. And
what do you drink when you go out? What's your order?
Well, so I typically stay always away from sugary drinks. So any cocktail that has pineapple and fruit and a ton of sugar, I stay away from that. Although I do like Aperol spritzes. Mm-hmm. And then what I do is I have vitamin C, the supplement, before I go out. I drink a lot of water, so I dilute the alcohol and my body, is able to process it better.
You'll be proud of me. I do have a water in between each drink.
Exactly. Yeah, I do the same.
Okay,
it's a rule of thumb.
Good. Right? I feel good about that one. Okay, keep going. Yep.
And then a couple of cups when I go back home too, just to make sure. And then I have this supplement that is coconut charcoal. It's a common supplement when you have something that, food poisoning or anything related to that. It's a soft one. So I actually have coconut charcoal when I get back home, and the water, vitamin C, and coconut charcoal, I think is the perfect combination because I haven't been hangover in a really long time, unless, I don't know, it's a crazy night and we do shots too. And, I have my drinks really quickly. I am typically not hangover and I'm doing sports the morning after. Wow. So
you are speaking my language with this Hangover Cure. I will be ordering all of this. So when I drink mainly in Texas, we have ranch waters, which it's Topo Chico, tequila, lime juice, for those who don't know. That's mainly what I stick to. But I try to, I went 2 years not drinking at all. I think I had 2 drinks in that period of time. I operate in extremes in certain areas of my life, not in luckily not in a food way or a health way, but just in a mindset on certain things. And I'm grateful it hasn't affected my relationship with food, but it has in being obsessed with work, or I'm not drinking, or just certain lifestyles. So for me personally, I think that not drinking for 2 years wasn't the best thing for me. But when I went back, I've gone through phases. I'm drinking less than I was maybe like a few months ago. But I do the water in between each, and then I do ranch waters normally. And then I'll do like a marg every once in a while. But that's mainly what I do. My real thing that's killing me, I think, hangover health-wise, is my frozen margs. I know they're not great for me. But I love a good frozen marg, and Texas is 100 degrees. So like I've got to do something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that sometimes again, like we are humans, it's a marathon, not sprint. And it's just figuring out how to go about certain, life pleasures. Because the same thing for me, right? Like sometimes I also go out and my friends, I'm 31, about to be 32. My friends still like to do shots, like kill me,
Yeah.
And I always say no, but there's always that night that we're out dancing and why not? And, it's fine. Like, I totally get it because I know like a good, strawberry frozen margarita. That's definitely a weakness for me too. But I found another drink that it's also refreshing and sweet and less heavy than a frozen margarita, which is I mentioned Aperol spritzes. So I go with that. So it's always about finding those hacks to get around.
How do you keep a healthy mindset and a healthy almost relationship with health? Because I feel like especially in our 20s, a lot of girls will either fixate on maybe weight loss, and that can be like a trigger. Anytime I talk about health things online, I feel like I have to be very careful because I don't want it to end up being like a negative thing. So when you're tracking, when you're taking care of it, which I think taking care of your health is great as long as you have a good relationship with it, obviously. How do you manage to keep a healthy mindset and also a healthy relationship with taking care of yourself, but overall health?
Are you talking about guilt in particular?
Yeah, maybe guilt. Like maybe if you're tracking something more, maybe you're hard on yourself. You're guilting yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Because you may. So right, we were talking about when we stopped drinking and we became obsessed with that. It seems like it went for over a year in both of our cases. I think the way to go about it is honestly like reflecting a ton on when you feel great and when you don't feel great with yourself, which, checking in with yourself on that level, it's super important. And that's what led me to also learn and identify when things were not working. Because sometimes, understanding that you cannot be perfect, you're not a robot. So the same way that we were talking about, that you love frozen margaritas and that I love Aperol spritzes, right? And it's understanding about, maybe limiting that amount or potentially looking for replacements in some situations. And I call it the 80-20 rule, right? Like try to stick to the good thing for 80% of the times, and then 20% it's okay to cheat, right? So you lower those expectations, because if not, then you're like, if I'm striving for 90 or 100, I've already failed, so I might as well just quit. And you also may feel super guilty. I have so many friends that, to your point about weight loss, they feel so bad about doing something that is just not good for your body. And I think just taking the lesson, right, and just continue to go, as a literally like applying what we call artificial intelligence, but to your life, just like, okay, this didn't work for you. You couldn't have done better, because if you could have done better, you would have. If you could have not eaten that cookie, you would have not eaten the cookie, right? But if you did, it's because you didn't have the emotional tools and knowledge on like how you were going to feel, and, and you just did it. So just take the learning for next time. And, eventually you'll get to a point that you would move away from those decisions naturally and organically. And it's just kind of, at least that was my journey. And you mentioned tracking. I think that tracking helps you to get the information and make things easier. But then the psychology component of understanding that you will go by the book, at least, if you strive for 80% and not 100, that's where the key lays. At least for me, it's how we're thinking about it.
Perfect. I think that was great. Last thing I want to talk about, do you have any healthy habits or routines that you've picked up throughout your own health journey that have made like maybe the biggest impact?
Well, definitely that water between, drinks. That's a great one. When I'm getting sick, I take 1 gram to 2 grams of vitamin C in the morning. When I'm feeling stress, I take CBD.
Do you have a favorite brand?
Well, the drink Recess.
Yeah, I love Recess.
Yeah, I have 1 can at night, not during the day, because then I'm like sluggish and not super sharp. But at night,
I put it in a wine glass to like act like it's wine, and I do all. I love Recess. Yeah.
Nice, that's a great idea. Yeah. And then I guess when I am getting my period as well, like I try to not to skip a workout, because then that between hormonal imbalances and not working out or not, and it doesn't need to be like extremes workout. It can just be movement. So go out for a 1 hour walk, figure something out, but you need to move. If not, I started to get really anxious and stressed out.
Yeah.
So that correlates, that doing that when I'm PMSing is pretty important.
I make sure the first day I'm working out immediately. And I keep it up, or else I'm not a human for 5 days,
Yeah, exactly.
It really makes a big difference. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can they find you, and how can they also order base for themselves?
Yeah, so on Instagram, get_base, hi at get-base.com, or our website, get-base.com. We are really on top of any health questions that you may have that you want to send us via DM on Instagram or the site or email. And then they can also find me, Lolita Priego, on Instagram or Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by giving it a nice thumbs up and subscribe for more.